Hi, I'm Christine. I document the imagination. I'm the co-director of a film called The Act of Killing, where we documented the imagination of mass murderers. So, what does that mean, documenting the imagination? I believe that everything we experience and understand requires imagination. Even memory is a creative act. Each one of us constructs and maintains an image of ourselves in the world and the world within ourselves. Each of us has a set of personas that shifts, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, according to context. For instance, when I'm filming or giving a talk, I inhabit and project a different persona than the one that I have when I'm wielding a lightsaber in a duel against my nephew and arguing with him about who gets to be the Jedi Master. He always gets to be the Jedi Master. These shifts happen naturally, often imperceptibly, and we don't have to be mass murderers or exotic sociopaths. We don't even have to be celebrities to have multiple personalities. A motion picture camera is an amazing tool to capture the performative and creative aspects of what can be called real life. The camera provokes performances of a different nature and intensity to those we give when there's no one filming. Here's an example of a wonderful moment with a taxi driver named Vicky, whom we met in front of the McDonald's on the far side of the Las Vegas Strip. She's going to do an improvised performance of her rendition of being an entertainer in front of US troops during the first Gulf War.
You know, boys, I'm glad you're out here for these past 2 months. Oh, the sweat, the agony, the blood and the tears you've gone through just because this damn Saddam Hussein and his war for oil, his war for Scud missiles, his damn political war. I hate it. I can't wait till this is over. Let's go out there and destroy him. Yeah, boys, you know it. You want to get home to your girlfriend, I can tell. Oh yeah, and you feel like an American now, and I am gonna bring it home. Bring it home, baby. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light, or so proudly we hail by the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night gave proof to the earth that our flag was still there. Oh, say, can that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
If you weren't an ISO entertainer, what would you be?
Oh, baby! I got so many men, I don't know what to do with them. Yeah. And I'm gonna go home now and get me one.
What are you gonna do with him?
Too many men, too little time. But boy, I've got many creative things I could do to a man. Oh yeah.
So this material is from early experiments that I did with Josh Oppenheimer, my longtime friend and collaborator. It's part of an archive that has many hundreds, maybe thousands of hours, and with whom I developed this way of using the camera to intervene in reality and provoke what I call super phenomena, spontaneous and playful performances that are superficially fiction, but also tell us something uniquely true, something that wouldn't be the same expressed in any other way. I've spent some 17 years as a filmmaker coming up with different ways to excavate both the private and the public imagination and take apart the stories we tell ourselves. So remember when you were 6 and you took apart the telephone? Well, I like to do that with stories. Why? Because like with the telephone, I want to know how stories work. How are they put together? And how can stories be hacked and given new functions? Diane Arbus, the photographer, talked about the way in which she photographed what she called the inevitable gap between what we think other people see when they look at us and what other people actually see. I go a few steps further by creating spaces or frameworks for people to explore, play with, and extend their imaginary selves. I do this because I believe that our imaginations are the glue that creates sense out of the stories we tell ourselves. It gives them an exchange value in an economy of belief, whose flows are deeply entangled with an economy of power. I call these networks economies because what matters is neither facts, nor feelings, nor ethics, but exchange values. And the currency is imagination. In 2001, Josh and I went to Indonesia for the first time to make a film called The Globalization Tapes. And this was the beginning of the long journey in Indonesia that would ultimately lead us to do dramatic reenactments with paramilitary death squad leaders in the act of killing. Has anyone here actually seen the film before? Oh, wow, okay. A couple of people have seen the film. Has anyone ever heard of the film before? Okay. So, I'm about to show you the trailer.
Cut. Buka. Pepe udah bagus, akting Pepe udah bagus. Cuman jangan lama kali nangis ya.
Pekong 5, inilah di tempatnya di. Aku bilang itu darah, kantor darah.
Jadi double perasaan. Ini antara ganjang Cina sama ganjang mertua. Tikam juga. Karena Cina juga.
Anwar Kongo bersama teman-temannya mengembangkan suatu sistem baru yang lebih efisien dalam menumpas komunis, yaitu sebuah sistem yang manusiawi, kurang sadis, dan juga tidak menggunakan kekerasan berlebihan. Tapi ada juga langsung disikat habis saja ya Pak, nggak usah disiksa dulu.
Born free as the wind blows, as free as the grass grows, born free to follow your heart.
Kalau sukses kita bikin ini film, penilaian satu sejarah berbalik. Bukan 180, 360 derajat itu berbalik. Itu definisi kejahatan perang, itu buatan orang yang menang. Saya pemenang, saya mesti bikin juga definisi kejahatan perang.
Kita butuh preman yang melaksanakan jalan Pancasila.
Bayangin di gelap gulita ini, kita hidup itu seperti dunia hampir kiamat. Ini bapaknya PKI ini yang ngajar nih. Untung nggak dapat ke tangan awak dulu, kalau dapat ke tangan awak mati nih.
Okay. This is a really short talk for me, hence the notes, because the other talk that I give about the film is 4 hours long, and they didn't want that one. So I will say about the film that it has been doing, to my eternal shock and surprise, incredibly well. I'm not going to bore you with an obnoxiously long list of awards, but let's just say we've won a lot of awards. It's got the BAFTA, it got the European Film Academy Award, and my favorite one is the Aung San Suu Kyi Human Rights Documentary Award in Burma. I never knew they had one there. But, she is one of my heroes, yeah. I had a picture of her on my fridge for many, many years, and the fact that she actually even watched the film was incredibly moving for me. I think the most important thing about the success of the film is that it's given courage to survivors of this genocide in Indonesia to openly question the official narrative of the past. Ironically, the Oscar nomination that we got forced the Indonesian government for the very first time to admit that the mass killings of up to 1 million people was an act of atrocity. Of course, they also said that they hated the film. There are hundreds, possibly thousands of articles on the film. We have an extensive website. I would encourage you, go past that, to go to our Facebook site and to see the best of those. There's many interviews with Josh, great, and the best of them will be there. And I don't want to repeat what's there. So I will say something about my personal experience of making the film. And a lot of people ask, so what is it like to work with perpetrators of mass murder? And the simple answer is difficult, but not for the reasons that you think. So you are filming with somebody who has killed many thousands of people, like Anwar, as the main person in the film, and you don't want to have anything in common with him, except that I did. For instance, he and I both like the same kind of old Hollywood films. We both like gangster films and musicals. He liked the Bible Roman genre a little bit more than me, but basically it was something we shared that I didn't want to share because actually I like those films, and so did he. Except that those films actually influenced the way he felt about himself and the way he behaved when he was committing crimes against humanity. The gangster films that he watched actually influenced the way that he killed people during that time with wire. It was disarming to have this constant vertigo of discussing the details of horrible violence done to innocent people in tones that are otherwise normal and recognizable. The dynamic between Anwar and his friends reminded me actually of the way that the jocks used to talk in the parking lot in front of my high school, the way I hear sometimes business people talking in the pubs around Liverpool Street. It was normal and recognizable. The surreal tone of the film is not merely something we created for aesthetic reasons, but it's an attempt to reflect this vertigo between the familiar and the terrifying. And what's been amazing is that audiences around the world actually see themselves in this film. They can recognize that surreal vertigo in their own communities. I felt that. I went to the Academy Awards ceremony in Los Angeles this February, and I was there all dressed up, excited, and the first musical number that came on was was a song called Happy, and I'm happy, happy, and people were dancing around in brightly colored costumes, and I started to have this weird out-of-body experience where I just was floating in the auditorium and looking down and thinking, what am I doing here? This musical number has no irony in it, and could be in our film. And yes, and it was also around this moment that I realized that the bookies were wrong and that a film about the dark triumph of genocide is definitely not going to win the Oscar award. The even stranger thing was when I came out, when we came home, we went to the hotel, and it was about 3 a.m., and I mistakenly booked my parents and my husband and myself in a hotel that has raging parties in the lobby. So it's 3 a.m., we get out of the taxi, drunken people are pouring out of the hotel. We get out, and there's this guy lying there in a military uniform, and he's unconscious, he's bleeding from his head. His friend, also in uniform, is like holding him up with his finger in his mouth so that he doesn't choke on his own tongue. And there's this guy selling hot dogs, really a little bit too close to him. And it was like 2 meters or something, but it was really awkward. And I was all dressed up, my husband's in a tuxedo, my parents are watching, and people are coming out of the party and nearly stepping over this guy to buy hot dogs. And after they buy the hot dog, they're eating it and actually watching, when the police comes and takes him away. And yeah, this is my everlasting image of the Academy Awards. So I want to show you a little bit about the work that I'm developing now and how I'm continuing to take this idea of documenting the imagination. The first is a short clip from a film. Working title is The Space Between. It's about the human experience of the arms trade. It was shot behind the scenes of a theater project by Rimini Protocol, where 20 people whose lives are shaped by the arms trade reenact scenes from their own lives in a high-tech set.
Because nuclear weapons as a deterrent, okay, fine, that's about all. Because seeing what happened in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I do not think any sane person will use nuclear weapons.
Except US. You have 2 presidents.
Okay, and I'm going to race through. The next one is a clip from a film called Science Future. It's actually an interactive online project, which will also be a documentary feature film. And it's an animation, so I'm going to talk over it. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to just talk over it. This project, so it's an interactive project, and it's also will be a documentary film. It will show the collective imagining of the life of one woman of the future. It's going to use a technique called the exquisite corpse that was used by the surrealists. One person will start the story about this woman named X, and the next person will be able to continue it, and the next person, and the next person. But no one will control the whole story. The best fragments of the story will actually be dramatized in a technique very similar to the one that we used in the act of killing. It's something of a complicated project, so the first thing will be all with scientists. They'll get to imagine the story. Kids will pick what they think are the best scenes, and then of those scenes, some of them will actually be dramatized. There's a website to tell people about the project, and Facebook, Twitter, et cetera, so these are the ways in which I am continuing to try to hack the story-making process, to constructively short-circuit the mainstream economy of belief. Stories may be less quantifiable than the price of frozen orange juice or mineral rights or a tracker fund, but really no less visible and probably more fundamental to the bigger question of who we think we are. Thank you very much.